Hi, hello everybody. I'm here for another live video, and tonight I will be, or this evening, according to where you are, I will be joined by a friend of mine, one of the most interesting, one of the most well-behaved and knowledgeable voices of the community. He should be joined in a couple of minutes, and we will be talking about our ideas on classic vintage fragrances, fragrances from the past in general. In particular, we're going to speak about vintage bottles, our ideas of when it is the case to spend real money on something, when you can find a good alternative, when it's definitely not the case, and you better let it go because it's not worth it. We will discuss our approach, what has led us to vintage fragrances, classic fragrances, because there are a little picky difference. I think classic is the fragrance and vintage is the bottle. So that's what more or less we are going to talk about this evening. Well, while we are waiting for him to join, hi everybody, Ahmed, Moon Fragrance, hi, Macbeth Sample, Drink It In, hi everybody. So, I will start. Hi Druid, Antonella, hi Eka Moscow. So, while I'm waiting for JJ to join, I start talking about what led me to vintage, to classic fragrances. So I started my journey and my collection around when I was around 15 years old. So it was around 1997, and then I always collected fragrances. Here he is. Hi Margie. And now here's JJ.
So I was actually hosting it. I already had a live going on my end, and I was trying to invite you in. So I had mine going on, and you had yours going on, and we were expecting the other to join. Yeah. Check.
A little misunderstanding.
Look at this glowing rectangle. Look at that. Ooh, that's
Sorry?
nice. Nice lapel. Yeah.
No, but it's so freaking hot here. We're mid a heat wave in Italy, and it's around. Let me do the conversion. High 90s.
Yeah, that's warmer than here. We're in the mid 80s
No,
here in the Boston area in
we,
Framingham.
we're in the 90s, but consider it's 1 a.m.
What? It's 1 a.m. where you are. Well, thank you for taking some time out of late night to do
No,
this.
no, that's no problem for me. I usually work at night, so even when I'm on holiday, I keep the rhythm, stay up at night. Otherwise, it would be a problem when I start working again.
So it doesn't interfere too much with your normal cycle, normal
No,
schedule.
no, no, absolutely. So I was introducing the topic by speaking about what led me into classic fragrances. I said that I was starting. I started my journey around 15 years old in 1996, 1997, and then I always went on buying fragrances, mostly the new releases. Then in the early 2000s, I got into some niche offerings. But then the older I get, the more I miss my younger years. And so I start going back to what reminded me of those years, like watching the same movies, listening to the music of the period, and also checking the fragrances. And I discovered that some were no longer with us, some other are completely different. And so I had to find a way to navigate into this vintage world. That's something a bit weird at times. And so, what led you? How do you relate to classic and vintage fragrances?
What was my journey? What got me into classics and vintage fragrances? Um, I think that I had an affinity for them at a very young age. I think at an age where many of them were not considered vintage, that they were contemporary fragrances. You know, whatever my father or my older brother or even my mom wore, relatives, uncles, and I think that I expressed fragrance from a young age. I wanted to have my own. I got my own bottle of fragrance as early as 11 years old. I had Aspen before it was made by Coty. I'm forgetting who made it at the time. I had Aspen and
Scent of the day.
Musk. Um, I had Preferred Stock. I had Gravity. I had even had Bogart Witness. It was like I had like a little mini version of it that was in my stocking for Christmas. So I've been into fragrances since I was very young, and I wore them all through, you know, junior high school, high school. It never became an obsession until much later, but I always had a handful of them. And there was one place that I loved to go to, and this is when it was in Harvard Square, and it's called Colonial Drug, and now it's in Nonantum, which is in Newton. It's not too far from where it used to be in Harvard Square. So I used to go in there in college, and I would talk to the shop owners, and I learned a lot about fragrance at that time. And I was just really, I was really struck by older stuff in general, like just the aesthetic of it, the bottles, and then the smells. And that was around the time that I first got acquainted with a few of them. One of them was Scannon Canon with the wooden cap.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
the little,
I know the bottle, but I have never smelled it.
and Habit Rouge. I first learned of Habit Rouge. I first learned of a few others at that time, like Royal Copenhagen and all these older style fragrances. They were the first place that I ever saw Creed fragrances being sold. Um, a lot of Guerlain. Yeah, and I went in there and I bought a few things when I was younger, and you know, like it's never it's not like it hasn't been like a linear path. Like it was sort of like a passing interest, and it didn't really start to gain momentum until I went into a Barney's maybe like 14 years ago. Barney's was this, it was a chain of upscale department stores.
Mm-hmm.
And I was developing an upscale taste, even though I didn't have an upscale income. But nonetheless, I would go into Barney's and explore. And what really interested me was all of the different kinds of fragrances that I had never heard of. And that's when I first started, I first learned of Serge Lutens and Frederic Malle and Comme des Garçons, a lot of the fragrances from Comme des Garçons and a number of other brands. So that must have been like 2007, 2008. And that's when I really started to get into more niche type fragrance. But I didn't really get into collecting as much until later, and that was after I studied perfume making. Perfume making kind of reignited my love affair, and then it just went ballistic. It went like full blown, maybe 5 or 6, 7 years. So, yeah.
Yes. I started with the niche category because a friend of mine opened a perfumery shop here, and she's selling niche. She's selling Creed, Amouage, Diptyque, Villoresi, and so being acquainted to her, I went to the shop, and I remember I bought Green Irish Tweed in early 2000s, Floris 89, a couple of 2 or 3 Penhaligons, and that was my my debut in the niche world. Then about the vintages in recent years, when I started looking after them, well, since I have a background in economic sciences, and there's a joke about us that we don't even go to the toilet without a plan and a scheme. I have developed a plan and a scheme as a compass to navigate this misty ocean of vintage. So I divided vintage fragrances in 3 categories. Classic fragrances, because as I told before you were here, classic is the fragrance, vintage is the bottle.
Yeah.
So I divided in 3 categories, plus 1/4 that it's a little different thing. So the first category is the one you absolutely need a vintage bottle because the fragrance is discontinued.
Mm-hmm.
Such, I have few examples, Tsar or Van Cleef & Arpels Pour Homme, Balenciaga Portos, your beloved Rocco Barocco joint. I have Lauder for men.
Yeah.
And you have no chance but go for the vintage market, provided that these fragrances have a particular meaning for you, you have memories, or you have, or you find a real bargain. Otherwise, just let it go. There's no reason in spending 300, $400 in a fragrance you don't care for just
Mhm.
because it's vintage.
Yeah.
I don't see the point.
No, no. There are fragrances out there that I identify as quality fragrances that were well done. But when I look at my collection, I think to myself, I already have so many others in this genre that are similar. Maybe they're not exactly the same. And as far as I'm concerned, that particular one is what I call an also ran, because there are so many fragrances that had come out as a response to a particular fragrance that had become commercially successful. So that fragrance would come out and others would catch on to its success and they would scramble and we got to get our version of this out there. We need something on the market that does that, but it will have our label on it. It will be our signature. Um, and that happened a lot. So for a while, I feel like I started to collect so many of these also rans, and I don't really feel the need to have so many of them now because so many of them smell similar to each other. Does that make sense? Like it's not that they're bad, like they're great, but the likelihood that I would revisit them when I would probably go to what I think is the best of that group or the best two or three rather than have 10 or 15 of them. Um, Especially when they are discontinued and they've become very scarce and they're going for so much money. It's like, is it really worth all of that money? It's not like that particular fragrance was groundbreaking. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes. For example, to many people may sound like blasphemy, but I will never pay 200 or more bucks for Yves Saint Laurent M7.
No, no.
I just don't care for it. There are one thing we must make clear: for all those fragrances, there are alternatives. There
Oh,
are
definitely.
alternatives on the market that may be more or less similar, but there are. There's an alternative for everything.
Yeah, yeah. I do think that there's some fragrances out there that have gotten a lot of buzz, um, a lot of hype, but I personally would not like. It's almost like I feel like it's my mission to tell people like, this is my opinion, so you can take my opinion for what it's worth, but you don't necessarily have to spend the money on A, B, or C when I suggest this over here to you that's either still in production and the formulation is just fine, or if it is discontinued, it's not going to cost you as much money because it is more abundant, or people have not overhyped it, I guess. Like one example of it, and it's kind of funny, like I think it's a great fragrance, but like Escada Casual Friday, I don't think it's great enough to spend the kind of money that people are willing to spend on it. It's a late 90s fragrance that was well done, but there are others out there that did very similar or smell very similar, and you wouldn't have to spend the money on them just because they haven't gotten that hyper attention.
You have Le Mal, you have Amouage Reflection that can the smell more or less in that ballpark.
Right, right. Like, and I'm not bashing the particular fragrance. It's just I can't really warrant seeing somebody spending that kind of money, and especially if they haven't tried it first. Like, by all means, I say this so many times. Like, do as do as I say, don't do as I do. I'm sort of the eccentric here who has taken the risk and have spent money on blind buys. Not as much anymore, but I had. And while
I did too.
in some instances I've been successful, and in others I'm like, why in the world did I spend this money? Like it's nice, but I didn't have to spend that much money. So if I could like give advice to other people, like kind of steer them in a direction where they're not having to spend a lot of money, then I'd like to do that. Like kind of like the Susie Orman of fragrance nuts. Like save your money, on certain things. Like I don't know. It's a thought, you know. Hey, Rudy, what's going
Hi,
on?
Rudy.
So, yeah, I mean, there are some things where I'm going to have to say, yeah, you have no choice but to have to spend a lot of money on it if you really want it. And remember, if you don't have the money, don't get it. Like, trust me,
Exactly.
I haven't had the money and I would still get things and I paid for it.
Yes, the second category is pretty similar. I mean, it's a category in which I put fragrances that I strongly advise you to buy a vintage bottle because the current formulation either sucks or smells completely different.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to hear some of your examples. I have a feeling I'll agree with a lot of them. Yeah, it's true with the original Polo. It sadly is true. It is. Yeah, yeah, with cool water, definitely. I would have to agree. Yeah, Alex is completely on point with all three of those. It's not to say that like the Rockford, yeah, that too. But thankfully, you can get that for not too expensive if you dig hard enough. And Reporter's kind of a little bit tougher to find in older bottles. You'll have to tell me where I can find one, but I have an example of an older one.
No,
And then,
this is the shape of the bottle you might want.
yeah,
The new is different. Look at this shape. This is what you want
yeah.
because the other smells completely different.
Mm.
Polo. mm,
So far, I've agreed with everyone that you've shown. Like, but there's going to be some where it's like, nah, well, actually, you can get a new bottle because it's been reformulated very well. But all of those, I would say, something that's been lost. We don't know exactly what or why. I don't want to get into the arguments as to what materials might have caused it. I think it's mostly just, it's more so just the attempt to modernize, tightening budgets, carelessness, and maybe certain materials restrictions that result in reformulations where the dry down isn't as good as it used to be. But those are examples. Yeah,
oh, this is a clear example. Azzaro.
yeah, yeah,
It smells like the original, but it is so watered down
yeah.
that
It's hollowed out. It's like hollowed out. It seems skeletal. It seems like the spirit of it is there, but the meat, like the substance of it, is gone. Does
yes.
that make sense?
Even if you spray 30 times, you don't get much closer to the original. It misses something. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. And Davidoff, for example, Cool Water. Cool Water, the opening is still there, more or less still there. But these had in the 80s, in the early 90s, these had a wonderful woody dry down,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and now it's just mandarin orange synthetic mess. This I use when I use it. I try to layer with ISO E-Super
Mm-hmm.
to give it something of the woodiness, but it's not the same. And I think Cool Water you can find a vintage bottle for not really extremely expensive prices.
Right.
So,
Well, that's the good news for a few of those that you've shown. Getting an older bottle isn't going to set you back too much money. That's what's kind of funny is like a lot of the ones where I really do feel that they've changed a lot. If you are to get a vintage or an older bottle, they're not even that expensive. which is good. It's the same thing. Puig Forum. It's the same thing. Like, it's not really quite the same fragrance. It's
No.
you know
Quorum is another that
no,
lost a lot.
that's another example too. But the good news is a vintage isn't that hard to get. So
No, no,
yeah.
no. I found this polo, for example, for a fairly decent price. This is two fluid ounces, and it's a vintage splash, Cosmere splash. I found it for 60 euros, not that much, and I bought it from a store, a perfumery. So I was quite guaranteed that it was in perfect condition, and it
Yeah.
is.
So I'm doing a comparison series, Alex, on my YouTube channel once I gain a little momentum over there. And it will be those fragrances that I have in an older bottle and a newer bottle, and I discuss the differences between the two of them and the similarities. And in working on this project, without really revealing too much, because I want to kind of leave some of it a surprise, most of them, most of them, the differences are not that great, but it's kind of, but you did point out a couple actually that I will be doing. I will be doing Azzaro, and I will be doing Polo as well. So, yeah.
And the last category is the one in which I put the fragrances that you don't need a vintage bottle because the current formulation is perfectly acceptable.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Or you might want a vintage bottle if you are a collector, and that's okay.
That's fair. Yeah.
Or if you are particularly in love with a part of that fragrance, a particular note that was present only in the vintage. But
Right.
the current formulations, to me, are perfectly acceptable. For example, La Carnoir is still a good fragrance.
Oh, nice.
Cartier, this is Santos. But
No, I don't know that bottle, but a recent bottle I have is quite nice. Yeah. Yeah.
other brands that are really good at reformulations. I have one, but all the brand is okay. Aramis.
Oh, yeah. Over here I have my New West sitting over there. Yeah.
But all the Aramis current formulation are perfectly acceptable.
I'll grab a couple of them just so that people know that I actually have fragrances here. But I have a couple of them here. Yeah, I can't say enough about Aramis scents. Like, these have been favorites of mine for a while. So there's the New West, which I think is dandy to have this form. Also, the older New West bottles are pretty expensive compared to some of the others, which is interesting because it was one of the later ones. And then
That's also the vintage Havana is much more expensive, but I have the current formulation. It's fine.
It's just fine. There isn't much of a difference. It's just so small. It's just Devon. I have the Devon here, and I have my older Devon bottle as well. And but that's one of the only ones where I have an older and a newer bottle. An Aramis 900.
Great animalic.
It's great just right out of the bottle. And this performs so well. For anyone who cares enough about performance, I still smell Aramis 900. If I put this on in the morning, I can still smell it on my skin at the end of the day. There's no concern about that. And it is a beautiful, that patchouli civet in the dry down. Really great civet base. It doesn't have to be real for it to be good. And we can leave the kitties alone. leave those cats alone. So yeah.
Another brand that it's particularly good at reformulation is our beloved baby.
Yeah.
That
Hold on.
one. Mhm.
Some people may be shocked to realize that I only have in my possession a newer bottle of Guerlain Vetiver.
This is the current formulation.
Yeah, I have like a big 200 milliliter right here, and this is my second. Yeah, this has been protected. This has been really protected. Hey, you know, a sign that it's been really protected? That people who don't appreciate older fragrances say that it smells kind of old-fashioned. Hey, that's how it's supposed to smell, and that's why I love it. It's so great. And the tobacco, I mean, it's just as much tobacco as it is vetiver. One
If this smell old-fashioned, how does this smell?
old-fashioned to some people. To me, that's not part of my vocabulary. Like I can tell, I can identify something as seeming to be dated or old-fashioned to certain noses, but it doesn't even register in my own mind because I'm not experiencing fragrance in that way. You know what I mean? Like it's not like take for example, somebody had posted on Instagram. They posted about Equipage, Hermes Equipage. So they have this full bottle of Equipage. They did a fancy picture of it. Like, look at this. I have Equipage. Check it out. And the way they sounded so dismissive in the review, comical. Like, yeah, I have it. I wear it once in a while, and I feel like I don't want to be trendy. It's kind of boring, but it's all right. I'm like, it's like, how does somebody get to that point where they go for the full bottle and then they feel that way and post something about it? It just is like, I don't get it. I, for one, love it. That's like pinnacle for me.
I love most of the Hermes line. The last one, H24, I was unimpressed. It's not bad, but nothing to write home about.
They could stand to do worse, but it wasn't something where I was so impressed I had to get a bottle of it. I wasn't moved by it. There's something said about being fastidious by being picky after a while. And at this point, I'm not going to, if it doesn't resonate with me, if it doesn't elicit an emotion that makes me say, wow, this feels good, this smells great. This is just, the neurons firing in my head right now. So I'm just feeling like that sensation. And I'm not getting that. I'm not going to get a bottle of it. Like, what's the point,
But I fell in love with an Hermes last year. I discovered it last year. It's a recent one. It's Eau de Citron Noir. It's incredible. It's incredible because it can mix it's a summer fragrance, can mix the citrus opening with a smokiness in the base, and it's unique in the summer fragrance offerings. It's beautiful.
Can you put the name in the chat? And then
yes.
I'm touching my bottle of Equipage. The folks are mentioning that as well. It's my Equipage, apparently. Rudy gets a cabbage note from it, but I think in a good way, in the best way possible. When people say that, they're like, yeah, this has like a rancid vegetable. in the best way possible.
Mhm.
Equipage. All right, so let's see what we have. Eau de citron noir. Did Jean-Claude did he do that one, or did
No, no,
or
it's Christine Nagel.
it was Nagel? Okay. The
And
only
it's unique.
yeah
It's something you have to test. It's a really a unique take on a summer fragrance because you
yeah
don't have smokiness on summer fragrances usually. You have marine notes, citrus openings. These are citrus opening and the woodiness and the smokiness. It's really something unique.
yeah. I would like to try that one. There are critics of Nagel since she has taken the helm from Elena. I do like a few of her fragrances. Some not so much, but word for it, I'd be interested in sampling Citron Noir. I do love, and I've mentioned this before elsewhere, that I love her Galop d'Hermes, Galop, in the shape of the stirrup. That's wonderful. And I kind of like the rhubarb one, but it kind of bottoms out after a while.
Ah,
It's very
ah.
heavy, and then I feel like it's a little too fleeting for me to warrant going full bottle. Not that that stopped me from getting other things, but it has to be this whole package, and it just fell short for me. But Eau de Citron Noir, my favorite from that line happens to be Eau Gentian Blanche. Love
Oh,
that.
Gentian.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
yes. I've seen that, but I never tested it. I tried Citron Noir, Orange Verte, concentrated Orange Verte, Rhubarbe Carois, and there's another one. I don't remember, but it was not the Gentian Blanche.
yeah. It's something about the rhubarb, rhubarb éclat. It's just so beautiful in that opening, but I wish I could kind of I wish it could have sustained just a little bit longer. And like I said, like it's not I don't always look for something to stay the same way and to have this longevity, but there's something about it that it's such a precipitous decline from there that it's kind of a letdown. But Eau de Citron Noir, I'll give it a chance. I think I used to be able to try them in Nordstrom, but I don't think that that's
Oh
possible.
yes, you find it in Sephora, in
Well, the
yes,
Sephora's they can be kind of crappy. They like when you go to other countries and you go to Sephora, they sell a lot more fragrances. Here, it's limited what they sell in the stores.
or
It's kind of,
maybe department stores, some big department stores. You can
maybe
find
Neiman.
it,
I could do Neiman Marcus. I think that they do all the Hermes.
maybe.
That's where I would try all of the what is it? The Jardin series. I tried all of them at Neiman Marcus. Of course, before buying them elsewhere, because I didn't want to pay the retail at Neiman Marcus. Because who does?
No, no,
Great.
you can find it at discounters
Yeah,
for a little less. Hermes doesn't get very discounted, but you can find a tester. Another good brand for reformulations or current formulations, Rochas. Rochas.
yeah, that's a great reformulation, and I think that sometimes folks get confused with that being a reformulation of the Eau de Toilette Concentré, which was different. So
Yeah.
that's like a reissue and reformulation of the original Moustache. Uh,
Yes,
I
Eau de
think it's
Toilette.
I love it. Yeah.
Yes. I like it better than the Eau de Parfum, though they're completely different, but I like this one much more.
The Eau de Parfum has no relation whatsoever to the original Moustache in any form. It's
No,
not.
no, it's similar to YXL Tuxedo, but I like the smell better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I'm not really into that kind of modern composition. I really am not. I had that and then I sold it. When I realized a lot of people liked it, I sold it off. So there's no reason for me to hold on to this.
Yes, it's good, boozy, slightly sweet, patchouli.
Fluffy kind of Campanish kind of patchouli thing. It's really popular.
Yes, but
Yeah.
I don't know. You you have this. You have Guerlain Heritage. You don't need that.
Fudge, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then the last two brands I put in this category, we are going into big controversy.
Mm.
Chanel,
Antaeus.
Antaeus, Egoist. Chanel doesn't is not bad on reformulation. These are company assets.
Yeah.
Chanel don't mess with them. They know this is money for them. They don't mess. I think Antaeus is not nearly as powerful as it was in the 80s. That's clear. Maybe the Castorium is not the real Castorium, but this smells great.
Oh yeah. This
This
is what
smells great.
this is what I say about it is if we weren't aware of how it had changed in the past, and if we were to just judge it in isolation on its own, it really kicks some ass compared to other releases currently. Like it has held its own. I do think that.
Yes,
Even the
Egoist
fact,
as well.
Mhm.
Egoist as well is still good.
Yeah, I agree with
Ego-
Ego. Yeah.
Platinum Egoist is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And finally, the most controversial brand I think I will bring to the table today.
Ah, cool. you
Yves
will.
Saint Laurent in general, Jazz the same. Kouros is still a fantastic fragrance.
Yeah.
That is it powerful like the original? No. Is it animalic like the originally? Not nearly. Does it smell great? Fuck yeah.
Still more animalic than I think people would expect. Like I think that if somebody very like a very modern taste and they smell Kuros, they would say that smells very animalic, or they would use whatever terminology is accessible to them. I think that's another example where in isolation, if one were not to know what Kuros used to be, and you smell that, it's impressive. It still is.
Both Antaeus and Kouros smell like the original. They are not completely different, like the modern formulation of Polo Green compared to this.
Right.
Or Azzaro we were talking before. This smells like the original, it's just less powerful.
A little less powerful, and there still is animalis base in it. I can detect it.
Oh yes, it's still animalic, just that civet is synthetic. And,
Yeah, it's
and it's sharper. It's
and,
sharper than the real civet in the vintage one is warmer. I think this is much sharper.
yeah.
But it's great. Hi, Carrie. It's still a great fragrance today, Kouros. And it's recognizable, like Antaeus is recognizable.
Yeah, so Alex, there's actually a base that Pierre Bourdon used called Animalis base, and he used it in the original. This base is still being produced, and they still put it into Kuros. The only difference is now, instead of having genuine Costas in the Animalis base, there's Costas Replacer, and Costas Replacers smell exactly the same to my nose as Costas. So they dialed it down though. And it's gotten lower, the amount that they put in, but it's still, it's not, it's it holds its own. I agree, and I guarantee you now that I think there are rumors that it's discontinued or it has been discontinued. Even those most recent bottles, at some point, people are going to be clamoring over them. They're going to end up clamoring over them. They're going to want any kind of bottle of Kuros that they can get. So
No, I don't have any problem. I have many backups from
yeah,
every period of time. I still have an original from the 80s.
yeah, well, that's
Yes.
cool, very cool.
Then the last bonus category, I think, is very dear to both our hearts. Feminine marketed fragrances
Oh,
that
yeah,
are now completely unisex.
yep. Today would be complete, that people wouldn't give it a second thought. Shalimar, yep, Shalimar definitely. Emerald, Emerald, cheap and cheerful. Like people need to look. They need to look into Emerald. It has such a history to it. Goes back.
1920s or no,
Yep.
or even before. They are cheap. Emerald is a cheapie. You can find it for $30 or $40, I think.
Yeah.
And well, I don't have at hand other bottles, but Cabochard, for example, is something I don't even know how it could have possibly been marketed for women.
Oh, yeah. Or take it a step further.
Leather, it's tobacco, it's animalic.
Well, if you take it a step further, early on with Robert Piguet Bandit, that is
Bandits.
hardcore. That's like to my nose, there is nothing that smells like culturally feminine about that. It is a
Oh, but
good.
those are the fragrances I remember were on my mom's lover when I was a kid. She wore Jolie Madame.
Jolie Madame, yes, that was also Germaine Cellier. Yep.
She wore Diorissimo, Dior Dior, Diorella,
Yep.
Rive Gauche. Yes, Rive Gauche, but that bottle is unmistakable. Uh, and I thought that they were extremely feminine,
Mm.
but in the 70s and the 80s they were extremely feminine compared to what we had in the masculine offering. Givenchy Gentleman, Kouros, Anteus, and you may have noticed I haven't mentioned the House of Dior,
Mm-hmm.
because Dior, I think, crosses many categories because, for example, Eau Sauvage, I think is still good.
Mm-hmm. Some people have said that they prefer it to the older formulations.
No, but you have a fantastic alternative for the older formulation. It's a Écoute Als Eau de Monsieur. But I think this is still good. Joule is a great reformulation. Joule is good. Fahrenheit. What should I say about Fahrenheit? it's not what it was. Fahrenheit, it's vintage bottle worthy.
See, that's one where I think that it had somewhat a return to form in more recent formulations because of the introduction of a methyl heptene carbonate replacer to kind of reintroduce that petrol kind of note. I think it had a rocky time though for several years where it really started to smell differently. So I'm fine with my recent bottle of it. I'm not in any rush to get an older bottle. I lived through Fahrenheit anyways. I had Fahrenheit when I was in high school, so. But yeah.
I bought it in, remember, 1993. It was a bomb, absolutely a bomb. You had to wash. You had to wash it away the day after.
Yeah, it was pretty ferocious. Like it would stick to your clothes for a long time. Yeah, even after a few washes. Remember that?
Yes, Rudy Jules have been reissued some years ago. You can find it around some discounters or some online shops.
I'm partial to the reissue of Jules. I actually like it a little bit more.
Well, Jules, it's great.
Yeah.
It's really a great fragrance, and in that genre also Enrico Coveri for Men is still a great. The current formulation is still great.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that about Enrico Coveri.
Yes, it's there is now there are three offerings. One is the classic Enrico Coveri. Then there's Low, which is a summer fragrance with a strong melon note. And then there's the Modern, I think it's called Modern, which is a sort of fougere made in the Italian way, very floral.
And Alex, what is the name of that?
Coveri Modern. I go and take the bottle. I go and take the bottle.
Okay.
Just a second.
Folks, check out that physique. Wow. So soon I'll be doing a review on this Monsieur Lanvin, which is that sweet spot in the 70s, that kind of spicy, aromatic, lovely, lovely stuff. I found this on eBay for $40, and I knew that it was highly coveted, and I didn't know, much about the scent profile or anything, and I grabbed it quite a while back, and it's one of those like pressurized atomizers though, so I'm so nervous when I start to spray this that it's just not going to stop. But it's really nice stuff, so I have that sitting around here. A lot of the Lanvin atomizers at the time, Rudy, had this uniform bottle. I think they're really pretty bottles. Yeah, very cool. Like Eau de Lanvin and Arpège Lanvin. My Sin was in a bottle like this. All of them that had atomizers at the time. Yeah, Margie, he's great. I love Alex. So what else do I have here for a little show and tell? Oh, I recently acquired a bottle of this. This is not a vintage, and that's fine because it smells absolutely gorgeous. This is the Tabac Blanc Eau de Parfum, and I'm smitten. I'm absolutely smitten with this. And I had been before I got the bottle, and I finally wanted to have myself a full bottle of it. So it's a little treasure of mine. not that old even. I think this is probably 2013. Yeah, wonderful stuff. Abby Rougeau de Cologne.
Okay, I'm I'm back.
Welcome back.
So,
Well,
since I was there, I took the bottle of Jewel,
Jules.
so I can show Rudy which is the current formulation.
Oh,
Then Covery. This is the original. This sort of Art Deco bottle, very similar to the Lalique L'Homme Voyageur.
mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I wonder if they were heavily inspired by that bottle because it's so similar.
Oh, yes, but there are many similar Art Deco bottles. Take a look at Tsar.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is Low. This is the summer one with the melon note.
Ah,
which is probably cologne.
It's a little known fact that I venture into melon notes. I like melon and cantaloupe. I mean, I love Diarella. I love Calyx.
And this is the other. It's Le Nouvel Homme.
Ooh, oh, I like that. Is that text red or is it just reflecting something that's red? It's like really glowing. Oh, it is red. That's kind of neat.
Yes, it's red. It's red. And this is the modern take on a fougère made the Italian way. It's hard to take out and it's like that.
Oh, nice. I really, honestly, Alex, I had no idea that they have a lot of good spin-offs or flankers, or are they flankers?
If you know, for example, Gianfranco Ferré, Fougère Italiano, something like that.
Which of the Gianfranco Ferré?
Fougère Italiano.
Ah, Fougère Italiano. I'm not familiar with that. I've seen it as
it's something in that genre. You know, take on traditional fougère with a floral, more floral heart.
Mm-hmm.
They put jasmine, they put rose instead of the traditional geranium, carnation. It's a little brighter, but I prefer the original style.
Yeah.
For me, this is the fougère.
Yeah.
And speaking about reformulation, one that to me is really, really good, but though it's a little different from the original, is George Beverly Hills.
I agree. It's pretty well done considering we're talking about, you know, a budget plan. Yeah.
I remember this in the early 90s. It was a patchouli bomb, and now it's more of a cedar bomb.
Yeah.
And you know what? I like it more.
Mm.
I like it better. I like cedar better than patchouli. Then I have so many patchouli fragrances around that I really don't need anyone more.
Yeah. Well,
this is good.
It is perfectly fine to prefer a different, newer version of a fragrance. Like it's completely okay. Like I like with me and Jewel. Like I actually like what they did with Jewel. I was like, okay, they actually made it more unique to me.
For me, a better version, a better reformulation than the original is in Guerlain, Insolence.
Insolence. Ooh.
Insolence, the original was tremendous. It was great, but it was too much for me.
Mm. Was it just,
Now, now it's toned down.
yeah,
To me, is more tolerable.
yeah.
It,
Do you think that it was more sweet, more cloying, more?
yes, when you put together sweet and powdery,
Mhm.
it can be a bomb, and that was a bomb.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was overwhelming, really overwhelming. I
Mm.
think now it's much more tolerable, not only for you, but also for the people around you.
For the people around, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, yeah. It used to be quite intense. I haven't even smelled it in a long time. I had a friend who swore by Ansonance they should wear it. So yeah, I love violet scents. Anyways, I love violet. Love the smell
Yeah.
of.
I have a new, just arrived today, a new discovery set, and I've tested a really good violet perfume. It's Wesker. It's Imperial, I think. Just a second. Look at nice
Ah,
discovery set with samples, 5 milliliter samples. Finally, something you can use for more than one day. Yes, it's Imperial
mm. And this is Wesker. Wesker.
Wesker. This is very concentrated. It's like 30% essential oils, and this is strong violet, but not violet leaf, violet flower,
The flower itself.
and the strong cherry.
Mm, mm,
It's really good.
mm. Good stuff. Good stuff. So what do I have sitting here? There's a few things that I'm planning on doing reviews on this week because I'm doing sort of like a segment. So I guess I can give folks a preview without getting into too much of it because I'd rather they read my reviews. I think I've chatted about this one a few times on other lives, but this has been Carven Eau Vive. It was the relaunch in the 90s. It was originally released in the 60s. This one I'm going to be discussing tomorrow.
Oh, I have the vetiver, carbon vetiver.
That's a really good vetiver. It's really underrated and overlooked. It's a unique
Oh,
too. It's
yes,
not.
it's clean, it's soapy.
Yeah,
You can use a lot in summer.
yeah, I really like Carbon Vetiver. Another one is I'll be talking about later in this actually a flanker Pour un homme de Calonne Sport. Another one of them. And what were some of the other ones I was going to chat about? I thought I rounded them all together. Oh, Calyx. I'll be talking about Calyx. Prescriptives version, you know, not Clinique. Don't want the more recent one. No, I just happened to find a good price prescriptives version of Calyx a few months ago. So I'm going to be reviewing that one. And what else did I have lined up?
I
Yeah.
will. I think I will pick up since I spotted in a shop, in a perfumery and drugstore, where I sometimes find something vintage or original from the past. I spot and oh,
Oh, you're back.
you froze.
You were spinning for a bit. Now you're back.
Okay, you froze too. No, I was telling you. I think I will pick up, since I spotted a bottle of old coriander.
Ah. Oh, eau de coriandre.
No, coriander.
Just coriandre.
Coriander.
Yeah, I was I shared a review on Coriand recently. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
I think I will pick up that bottle because it's probably vintage and will cost me probably 20 euros or something
yeah.
like that. Really inexpensive.
It isn't too
I
expensive at
think,
all. That's a great one. I really love Coriand. It's that was actually one of the ones that fascinated me years ago, and I didn't get it because at the time I was young and I was like, oh, I don't want anybody to see me with a woman's perfume. But I thought I was just so struck by how cool the presentation in the bottle was. I was like, this is totally my aesthetic. I've always been into kind of like the mid-century style design, but I didn't actually get the courage to smell it until years later, and I asked the shopkeeper, can I try that? And she didn't even worry. She did. It was like she was so open minded. She wasn't like, well, are you sure it's for a woman? She's just like, yeah, this is a classic. Here you go. And
yes, yes, it's into that category we were talking earlier. And yes, it's. I don't know. I will pick it up and let you know my impressions.
yeah, yeah. And it's totally okay if it's not your thing. I wouldn't take offense, but
Mhm.
it's cheap enough. I think that in my humble opinion, I think the newer bottles, the new bottles smell just fine. They're really lovely. So, folks, if you're wondering, we're talking about Jean Couturier Coriand. I'll get my bottle of it to give folks an idea. But this happens to be an older bottle, but I did review this on Instagram a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Coriand
Yes.
with this very cool like green malachite cap. The newer bottle is more rectangular and the stopper is shaped a little bit differently. But yeah, coriander is wonderful. This is a
Yes, I don't know why I imagine it's something like this.
Am I wrong? It definitely does. It's definitely not an Oriental though. It's more maybe it's sort of like Emerald if it were a sheeper. Because emerald is like a green oriental or a green amber, and this is like a green sheep. So you may like it for that reason. And it has like a really cool kind of like sour rose. And I know sour sounds kind of odd, but to me, I kind of like it. It's just like the sour kind of rose. It's really cool and very mossy as well in the dry down.
I think this emerald has a traditional shipper feel, but there's something sparkling in the opening that reminds me of number five.
Ah,
I
ah,
think it has something in common with number five.
yeah. And that newer bottle it suits you well. It's enjoyable to you because
Yes.
I don't have a very old bottle either. I think mine might be from like the 90s, early 90s, and I find it delightful. I mean, I'm sure that the older versions, if you find one that's pretty intact, are impressive. But I think if you don't really want to, take the risk and get a really old bottle, and risk having it turn, you could try one that's more recent because you're not going to pay that much, honestly.
Oh no, but this is, I think, is good. Is good. It's a current formulation. I bought it from Amazon, I think, not
But
so long last year.
it's good to hear that it's still enjoyable
It's
and
good. It's
great.
good. I use it. It's one of those feminine marketed perfume that I can use,
Yeah.
like Shalimar in winter. Look at my how much I used it,
Now, what, is that the
and
cologne or is that the eau de toilette? The
no
Chateau
eau de toilette.
eau de toilette. Okay, gotcha, gotcha.
For example, I wouldn't use my beloved Cacharel Lulu.
Ah,
That
Lulu. Yeah.
I love it. I love it to bits. It's still something that can make my head turn, something that can transform any woman from 0 to 8. And it's so good. It's so good, but it's too feminine. I don't think it will suit me.
For that, you know what I do is I just spray it on my hand and I just enjoy it for myself.
Yes.
Like I wouldn't like, oh, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna put I'm gonna
No,
douse my
no, I spray on my hand when I'm at home, and
yeah, or like at bedtime and just like snuggle up. Yeah. There's a lot of fragrances that I just enjoy doing that with. You know, it's not necessarily it's not necessarily part of my grooming routine. It's more part of just the sensory experience of smelling it is just enough to give me joy. Like actually, most of the time, a lot of people don't realize that my partner actually has sensitivity to scent, so I don't spray all that much. I just spray like on my hands, and that's enough for me because I'm mostly at home working anyway. So
yeah. Another one that I use sparingly and mostly at home, it's my scent of the day, Coty Musk.
yeah, I have that too. That's going to be one of the musks that I feature. I'm going to do a whole musk series sometime. I
Uh,
think in August.
but this is particularly powerful to my mind because it smells exactly like my grandparents' bathroom when I was a kid.
Mm.
It has this mix of powderiness with a makeup smell mixed with some hair product,
Hmm.
mixed with aftershave and shave cream.
Mm.
All that mixed together was the smell of that bathroom,
That's
and
really cool
it's
that
bad. This is the smell.
it's cool that it takes you to that particular place. I love fragrances that can take you to a particular place in your past,
Yes,
spark those.
it's incredible how close it is to that smell.
Mm.
It's that. It's something. I think it's probably a mind game, but I think it's really a good fragrance and costs next to nothing. And
Mm.
yes, it's very old-fashioned,
Yeah, I,
but I love it. I love it.
that one's great. I love the Coty Musk. I like the Jovan Musk, Musk Monsieur. They're all affordable. Yeah, really great stuff. Some folks are chatting about masculine rose, and I think I missed that in the chat. I can't scroll up from here. If anybody can just mention the masculine rose you were chatting about, because that
One of the first masculine roles was.
I was thinking of Zaro Acteur. Um,
Oh, no, I think Bit Rouge was
oh,
before.
Abbey Rouge. Oh, Abbey Rouge was rose, and then everything else like rose and that citrus and the vanilla, the whole package. Yeah, but it was one of the first fragrances that had a prominent rose note that was really more targeted to men for sure. Yeah.
Yes, I struggle a little with Habit Rouge, not because of the smell. I love it. It's the fact that my skin announces floral notes,
Uh,
especially in Rolly and Rose.
yeah.
So when I wear Habit Rouge. Pra- Practically after 5 minutes, I can always smell rose. And
Mm,
more, if I can use a bit rouge or I can use egoist, and
mm.
after 5 minutes, I can no more tell what is what. I
Mm.
only smell rose.
Interesting. Oh,
And I have to spray my clothes because otherwise I will miss the fantastic Garley Nut Dry Down or the Egoist Sandalwood if I spray only on my skin because I only get the rose.
interesting how it isolates into just the rose. Like it just becomes the rose on your skin.
No, it's my skin that enhances every floral note.
Interesting. Yeah. I really do believe that certain people have a certain chemistry to their skin, like the pH or whatever it might be that that
Yes, I don't know. My
more.
skin, I am blessed with a skin chemistry that completely kills sweetness, and that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's great. Mm. If great, but not so great when because with many modern fragrances, when you take away sweetness, you smell the crap that's behind,
Uh,
and it's usually crap.
yeah.
Because I think perfumery sometimes, especially in the modern times, it's like a bakery. When you prepare a baked product, you taste the mix. Something is wrong. What you do? Add sugar.
Add sugar to make up for it. Yeah,
And
yeah,
perfumery, I think it's the same.
yeah. Just add the coumarin and the ethyl vanillin and the maltol and all the sweet stuff.
I think ethyl maltol, especially
Eh,
in the modern perfumery, especially Francisco Jean use it ethyl
Oh,
maltol by the shovel.
do you know it actually induces headaches? Like I sometimes and I'm not bullshitting people, but some modern perfumes that are very heavy on sweet aroma chems will give me a headache. I will feel overwhelmed. I'll get migraines. Like I'll
Yes,
hear.
I have an headache every time my daughter wears La Vie est Belle.
Oh, really? Yeah,
That's horrible. That's
that's
horrible.
the
That's
one.
really horrible.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Well, so, something I have right here that doesn't have really much sweetness at all, at least compared to those fragrances, is this. This is Amazon, uh,
Ooh, Hermes.
and this is a classic aldehydic floral. So you have the galbanum and the citruses at the top, and a little violet leaf, and then there's just this really great floral base, floral heart rather, like the hyacinth and narcissus, all the spring florals, and a little bit of orris root and a little raspberry in it too. Not sweet, like a tartness to it, and then there's just this very gorgeous dry down of it's just very mossy, cedary, grassy, kind of
How
woody.
does it how does it compare to number 19?
This
Because
is
I think it has some of the same notes.
yeah, this is much more sheer than number 19. This has more atmosphere to it. Number 19 has a lot more of that orris root to it. Like I love number 19, and I like that contrast between the green and the orris. But here, it's much more. I wouldn't say it's soft, but there is this sheer quality to it that's just really beautiful. It's kind of like it hovers on your skin, and it has this great trail, this great sillage to it. Um, it's very different. It's very aldehydic. It's more aldehydic than I'd say like number 19 is. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful one though. It's not really discussed nearly as much um, as other classics from the past. Yeah, it's a very classy one. So, Amazon. You can get in this bottle, or you can get older or newer or whatever. I'm not going to tell you which bottle you should get. I have this one, so if you want to get this one because I have it, that's cool. Hi, Randall.
Even Kalash was a great cheaper,
Yeah, yeah, I have
slightly leathery one.
Kalesh here too. Kalesh has interestingly with Kalesh, like I don't know, it doesn't have a mimosa note in it, but I detect like mimosa, like the mimosa flower, not mimosa drink, mimosa flower. Um, oh, there is a powdery quality to it, but not excessively so. Yeah, this is a very special one as well, and very unisex today. It's Calais.
Yes.
Yeah, these two beauties I hope to be reviewing pretty soon and give more articulated thoughts on it. Calais chez Amazon.
And back to Amazon and number 19. There are other two that I think we both love that I think have some similarity. Diorella and Cristal.
Ah, yeah, there are some similarities. So, truth be told, I actually have not. People are always surprised when I do this. I actually haven't smelled Cristal. Like, I haven't smelled it, and I don't have it, but I would like to smell it, and probably will end up wanting to have it. But I have heard that there is that similarity between the two for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Cristal, it's much lighter, brighter, and yes, it's more, even more floral, more hairy. They both have an oakmoss base and the citrus opening, so
Mm.
there are quite some similarity.
Would you say that there is not too much of a similarity where I would feel like it's redundant or like you know like would it make sense for me to have both or are they so similar? You know,
No, 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 no,
oh,
no.
okay.
They have similarities, but they are not a copy of one another. You can, for example, I think Diorella is much more similar to Sauvage than to Cristal.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm familiar with is that they're kind of like siblings to each other,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Though I think that this is similar to the Chanel masculine version of Cristal, pour Monsieur.
But monsieur, yeah,
They
yeah.
have pour Monsieur is much smoother. This is much sharper.
Mm, mm.
This is more. I won't say brutal, but very, very sharp in the opening.
Very
And
sharp faces.
yes, another great one. Two great one from unfortunately lost brand, feminine targeted, but still wearable. Were Paco Rabanne, which I have an example of when they used to make good fragrances. La Nuit, the Paco Rabanne, and Calandre. They were great fragrances.
Yeah, I love La Nuit.
Great big floral shape
That
of
one
the.
is very honey civet chypre too. It's very deep, very like thick. I love it. Love it.
Yes, it's powerful, heavy.
Very heady. Yes.
Yeah, really a son or a daughter, in this case, of its time. When fragrances were, even in the masculine side, were very heavy, very full of everything. And in fact, Anterus is very different from the other 80s powerhouses because it has a lot less notes. Because I think Polch combined the notes in a way that every note plays different roles within the fragrance. I mean, you have labdanum that gives powderiness and contributes to the leather base together with castoreum. Castoreum gives the leather accent and the animalic touches. The jasmine, there's very indolic jasmine here that contributes to the floral heart and to the animalic side.
Right, right.
So everything plays more than one role, so it could use less notes. If you see the note breakdown of Anterus, it will be 10 or 12 notes. If you see the note breakdown of this, it's 40.
Right. So
and that's an exception in the 80s.
Yeah.
Though it's still heavy, powerful, but not so full of notes.
Hi, Brian. I actually haven't tried vintage metal. I have experienced vintage and newer Calandra. I really enjoy Calandra. I was curious about metal. That's on my sniff list. Have you tried metal, Paco Rabanne?
No, I have the original Paco Rabanne Pour Homme. I have Ténéré. I had, but I finished the bottle, an old original XS, one from 1993, the last good fragrance from Paco Rabanne. And that's it, I think.
Yeah, those early ones, like Calandra is really quite nice. I actually think that the newer bottle of Calandra is similar to the older versions of Rive Gauche, but I'd say it's a little bit more unisex. I like
Rive Gauche was probably too floral to be... as that really piercing spike of floral, like, do you know Lanvin Arpège?
Arpège, yes, Lanvin.
That has that particularly spiky, pungent floral note. To me, it reminds me like entering a cemetery.
Oh,
the flower. No, but not in a morbid kind of way. When the flowers aren't fresh, but have been there for some days, and they have a more pungent, slightly sweet, penetrating smell.
No, I could see that. It's kind of dulled, not dulled, but it's kind of settled a little bit. It's not quite as strong in that respect. But what I like about Calandra is it has some of the elements of Rive Gauche that I like without it being so sharp floral, quite as sharp floral.
But yes.
Martial.
Hi, Martial.
We're just having a little chit chat, a little coffee clutch. We're talking about fragrances. We were talking about new formulations that are good, new formulations that are not so good, just talking about some of our favorites. So
And, si
welcome.
and since Marshall is here,
Ah,
I
Giorgio.
show his favorite.
It's interesting how they change the color of it. Like
Yes,
yeah,
this is bright green,
yeah,
and it was more yellowish
more
when
like
it
a gold.
was.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yes, another fragrance I remember that had that particular piercing, annoying, that was really annoying note, floral note. It was one of my mother's. It was called, I'm not sure about the brand. The fragrance I remember, it was called Eau Fleurie. Probably it was Lancaster.
Hmm. I can't say that I know that one. Eau Fleurie.
Eau Fleurie, probably from Lancaster.
Just here, I'm here. I'm just getting a little bit more light as it's sundown where I am. So,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
not the most flattering light for my complexion, but what can you do, really?
And
I
that
don't know.
that was extremely piercing, floral, extremely annoying. That was really like the smell. You know when you make those compositions of dried flowers.
Potpourri. Like
Yes,
potpourri, yeah.
they have a very pungent, piercing smell.
Let's see. What other things can I, show and tell? I have yeah. This is who's familiar with anything from D'Orsay? Um,
What's
yeah,
no?
so Arôme 3, Arôme 3, Arôme 3.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, well, D'Orsay was an old house, and then it got resurrected in the '90s, and this is like just a very, very sophisticated gentleman's citrus aromatic fragrance. I'm not sure if I'll wear it during the summer or if I will wait until autumn. It has almost kind of like an autumnal feel to it, but it's very nice. I have this one. I have Le Dandy, which is kind of like a spicy whiskey note in it. It's a very interesting kind of, not quite boozy though, but it does have this kind of it's almost like that's the smell of like oak aged barrels more than the whiskey. And then I have a few other Chevalier d'Orsay, Etiquette Bleu. One I would love to try that I haven't is Toulouse, which is a linden blossom fragrance, and I love the smell of linden blossoms, and I haven't yet found a fragrance that showcases linden flower in a way that I find enjoyable. So, but yeah, I have Arôme 3 sitting here in this nice little bottle.
No, I'm this year. I'm most concentrated on, focused on small indie brands to discover something new, something different. I found some interesting brands like Anatole Le Breton, like Allurant.
Ah, Anatole Le Breton. Le Breton Bois Lumière is one that I tried recently, and
Oh, Bois Lumière is the only beeswax one.
I love it.
Yes, I have the sample of that, and but I bought L'Eau de Marsan, which is that's a green fragrance, but green like no one else.
Mm.
Different from the classic green fragrance. You can imagine this or this.
Mm.
Totally different. There's a touch of oak moss in the base,
Mhm.
but it's mostly hay, grass, chamomile, wildflowers, fantastic hawthorn note,
Mm.
and
And and this is from Anatole Le Breton?
yeah, we. I'm speaking French. Yes, it's from Anatole Le Breton. It's L'Eau de Marsan.
Huh.
It's I described it like an impressionist take on perfumery.
Mm. Now that you mention it, because now I'm looking it up, I'm looking at the name L'Eau de Maison. That was the other one I wanted to try because I noticed the hay note, and I love like a foin coupe kind of fragrance. Like I love the Fieno from Santa Maria Novella. There's what's the other one? Yerba Mate by Lorenzo Villoresi. That's a really,
Yes, I have that.
yeah. So
I
this
have the I have the discovery kit from Lorenzo Villoresi.
he's a favorite of mine. I love a lot of Lorenzo Villoresi. But this is one,
Our Maritz is great.
yeah, this is one of the ones from Anatole Le Breton that I wanted to try. So back again.
And another other two that are great, and I think pretty unique are L'Eau Scandaleuse, which is leathery tuberose.
Mm.
It's difficult to make tuberose that is even unisex.
Yeah, there it can be a challenge.
Hard. It's hard to do that. And I think this with the combination of leather, it's really good. And another is L'Eau which is
Ah,
more summer fragrance with a fantastic lemon note.
I'm seeing the notes breakdown as you mentioned these, and seeing lilac and lily of the valley.
And also Grimoire. Grimoire's aim is to replicate the smell of an old library with
That was
the woodwork, the dust, and it's incredibly an incensey fragrance that is so light, so ethereal. You can also wear in warmer months. I don't think in scorching it like today, but late spring, early summer, early fall, you can totally wear it.
Mm-hmm. I by Brian mentions one unisex tuberose, Naomi Goodsir, Nuit de Becali, which I
I
agree it
don't
is
know.
very unisex. There's a few tuberoses that I have that I do firmly believe can be considered unisex. Vierge Toreros from Établi d'Orange. Um, Richard James. There was a scent that actually was marketed to men back in the
Savaro,
early 2000s.
Savaro,
So, yes,
Savaro,
exactly.
and
That's like almost
there's a new one.
like a tobacco tuberose.
Yes, but I still haven't found a way to get it because they stop shipping from England to Europe, and
So
I
which
have to.
brand?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alex. What house? What brand?
Oh no, no, I was speaking about the Richard James Savile that I have to.
Oh,
There's still to test it
oh,
because
okay.
it's difficult to obtain fragrances from England now. No, another one that I've tested, but I don't think it's a tuberose fragrance. It has a tuberose note, but it's the new line Milano Fragranze Derby. Derby has a tuberose note and a leather base, much like Le Scandaleuse de Anatole Breton, but Le Scandaleuse has more, a much stronger tuberose note. Derby has a tuberose
Mm-hmm.
touch. It's not tuberose fragrance. I mean, it's not nearly as strong as Carnal Flower or Dosson. It's
And what
totally.
is and what
Derby,
is the name of that one?
Derby by
Derby.
Milano. Derby. Milano
Really?
Fragranze Derby.
Oh, are you saying Derby? Like Derby?
Yes,
I didn't.
like Garland Derby, but Milano Fragranze.
Okay. Oh, what's the house?
Milano Fragranze.
Ah, Milano Fragranze. Okay. Oh, those are cool bottles. I'm just looking these up as you talk about them.
Yes, it's a sister brand to Masca Milano.
A nice, brilliant kind of cobalt blue bottle. Very cool. I see. I see. And yeah, it looks like tuberose is sort of like a supporting note in it.
Yes, but
I
it's a beautiful fragrance. It's a beautiful traditional masculine fragrance. That and Diurno. Diurno is a great fougere with a modern take, with an amaretto note in the opening.
so right now I'm putting that on my not want list, test list. Don't want it yet. I want to test it first, but I see that there's also a mimosa note, and I want to tell you, like, I love the scent of a mimosa note as well, but it's hard for me to find one that doesn't come off as a little too feminine for me.
Tuberose is, I think, the quintessential feminine smell because it's like the feminine version of vetiver. Vetiver is the quintessential masculine
Yeah.
smell, and it's hard to find a feminine fragrance with a strong vetiver note. Probably the only one that comes to mind is number 19.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's hard as well to find a masculine fragrance with a strong tuberose note.
Yeah. 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 There's definitely some unisex ones, but tuberose can come off as very womanly if it's the scent.
Other flowers you can do because we were speaking earlier of rose masculine fragrances. You have strong neroli masculine fragrances. You have strong jasmine masculine fragrance, but tuberose it's really hard to render in a masculine or even unisex way.
Right. Right. So a couple folks have been mentioning L'Artisan, and I think I know the Mimosa pour Moi, Flower Girl B2000. I was curious about that one, but every time I would read about it, it was just the votes or the.
Probably. I remember I smelled it years ago. So I don't clearly remember it, but L'Artisan did a tuberose fragrance, La Chasse aux Papillons, that
Sh-
was
oh, yep.
probably leaning more unisex
Uh,
than many other.
so this one, that Flower Girl B2000 mentioned, Mimosa pour moi. Oh, it's Anne Filippo. Hmm. I like some of her stuff. So this one, I've been hesitant because first off, I mean, unless somebody can hook me up with a sample, I would be really hesitant to blind buy. And not that this is like a true indicator, but when looking at the gender, like it's it's much more voted female than it is unisex. Not that that's actually true, because you can only take that for what it is. But that's the only reason why I haven't really taken the risk and just bought it, because I don't want to end up finding out that it's not really to my liking. And then somebody earlier mentioned a Linden Blossom one. Would that be Letten Douce by L'Artisan? Because I've heard mixed things about that one. I've been a little hesitant about that. I've heard that it's not really like a very solid fragrance. It's a little too diaphanous, a little too fleeting. Um, Oh, La Chasse Papillon. Oh, on Fragrantica. Yeah, I'm just using Fragrantica, Margie. I'm just using that as a guide. Yeah. It's just people who vote for it, like under gender, 27 people say female, and then 3 people say more female, and then 6 people say unisex. So maybe I could just go with the 6 people who say unisex. I'd like to try it, though. Definitely. I'd love to try that one, and I'd like to try Let Induce, but they're definitely not going to be blind buys for me. It's just too risky.
L'Artisan, I remember, that's another brand that has that perfumery that my friend opened. I was talking to you earlier. She has L'Artisan. I tried Timbuktu, and great, good. Not exceptional. It was not the vetiver scent that made me rave, but it was definitely good. And Traversée du Bosphore.
I like that one a lot, actually.
Oof, it was strange. That's
That's
something
why I like
strange.
it. Maybe that's the reason why. I love Fudam Sen. I like that one a lot.
Oh, I like Zonka.
Zonka I haven't tried, actually. That's
Oh,
one
that's
I'm not familiar with.
that's
But I have a feeling I'd really like that one, Zonka.
and T42. T42 was very light tea scent, was very good smelling, but I think tea scents are always too faint.
Yeah,
There
I don't really have that gripe about L'Artisan. I mean, some of them, yeah, but the ones that I enjoy, I don't really have any complaints about that. I love L'Eau de Navigateur, which is actually one of the earliest releases from L'Artisan, back when, I mean, this is back in the 80s, so we're talking about like Jean-Francois Deporte. I think Elena, actually, Jean-Claude Elena worked with him on that one. That one's great. Passage d'Enfer. But yeah, I'm interested about La Chasse à Papillon too. I like Timbuktu. It's not it's not like it's not a heavy fragrance by any means, and I have heard that the formulations have changed. Here we go with the formulation conversation again. But whatever bottle I have, I think that it's quite a beautiful composition, and I'm not just saying that because I read that Luca Turin says so.
And since we were talking earlier about cabbage, L'artisan has issued some, I read that will be released some 3 or 4 new fragrances with vegetable notes.
Vegetable notes, yeah, yeah.
I remember tomato, I remember cauliflower.
Yes.
I have to smell that. I have to smell that.
Yeah.
Finally, someone has listened to me, because I always say I have no problem with gourmand fragrances, but gourmand means something edible. And why there's always sweet?
Yeah,
Why always sweet?
I like
You don't eat just sweets, just cakes, just pastries. You can eat a good barbecue. You can eat vegetables. You can eat pasta, pizza. Why don't you make a barbecue gourmand? I rather smell like a pork chop than stink like a marshmallow.
I do think that there's some fragrances that have a barbecue smell to them, but I don't think it was done intentionally.
No,
But
actually,
pickle juice.
one from L'Atelier des Ors that's called Boissicard, that's meant to smell like tobacco, and it's so smoky, it almost reminds me of a barbecue.
Yeah, that one does smell like you're grilling meat, basically.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not the most versatile fragrance I have, but it's incredible. It's really incredible. I love it.
Getting back to L'Artisan Parfumeur, Bois Farine kind of has like this peanut flour kind of scent to it.
I don't
Like
know that.
Bois Farine.
Yes, but I never tested it.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of like it smells a little peanutty somewhere in the middle. Just in my nose, like it's kind of peanutty. That one's pretty nice. But yeah, I haven't sampled Le Protégé, the Cedrat Cerus, Henri de Gris, Massapin. Which one is the one that has the? Is it Vetiver Eclarat? Is that the one that's supposed to have cauliflower in it? No, that's the one with tomato leaf. I'm looking at each of these here, or is it? What's this? P. I like the Henri de Gris has a P note. PEA note. Is in peas, green peas.
Peas. No, but there was also one with cauliflower. I clearly remember it, but I don't know the name.
Yeah, I'm trying to narrow it down. So Cedrat Cerus says fennel. That sounds pleasant. Is it
Fennel. Fennel is interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not the first one in which fennel or plants that are in the fennel family are used, because caraway and cumin are from the same family.
Yeah, yeah. The seeds even look similar. Yeah.
Yes, and they have a similar scent profile.
Yeah. I always thought that fennel was sort of like a cross between caraway and anise. It's kind of like in between the two.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So it turns out it's Tonka Blanc, which is interesting because I don't really associate anything having a Tonka note with Vegetil, but apparently the notes, there's just 3 listed: Tonka bean, mandarin orange, and cauliflower.
Actually, tonka bean is probably the only sweet note I like.
Well, yeah, because like the Tonka bean is what really builds like a fougere. Like that's kind of like the sweet.
Yes, but it also has a smoky characteristic.
There's aspects
Not.
that kind of remind me of like tobacco or hay or grassiness. Yeah.
No, but Actually, traditional English tobacco was was
That flavored with it.
mixed, was flavored with coumarin.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's. I take you the example of, if I can find it, of course.
Look at.
Yes, this is an example of a traditional tobacco. Then it is not
Ah, it almost looks like a brownie almost.
yes, it's a brick. You slice it with a knife, then you rub it, and it becomes a normal tobacco you put in your pipe. But you can smell the coumarin, that slightly smoky sweetness.
Mm.
Or another just a second. Another nice form of traditional tobacco is this sort of turd.
Oh wow.
And this was the tobacco that was used on ships back in the day. The sailorman slice it in little discs and put them into the pipe or chew it. And this is also strongly flavored with coumarin. I think maybe coumarin was also used to preserve it.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it definitely brings attention to the fact that tobacco and fragrance, a perfumer can't merely put tobacco material like they can't put like a natural tobacco absolute in it and expect that to be just the tobacco note. It's built upon other things as well that kind of give tobacco its aroma. Like tobacco on its own is only one kind of scent, but for people to associate it with smoking tobacco, they put there's these other things that come along with it.
Yes, but that's why I'm very wary of tobacco and most of all coffee scents.
Oh, really? Yeah.
For example, Versace Man was a nice tobacco scent. Aramis Havana is a good tobacco
Yeah.
scent.
I like.
Bois is good, but mostly tobacco. You have Pure Havane, you have Herod, you have Naxos. They're all sweetened. Why? Tobacco is not sweet,
No.
apart from apart from Virginia that has a natural sweetness, but it's a light sweetness. And coffee is extremely bitter. Why sweeten it up like a candy?
Yeah.
Or wait, now you have a coffee fragrance. You have or vanilla. Vanilla is also not sweet in its original form.
Right. It's not. It doesn't have a strong sweetness on its own. It needs.
Or you find almost caramel. Almost always caramel, vanilla. Can I have a coffee? A fucking coffee, bitter coffee, an espresso. Then probably I got it because here in Italy we drink coffee in a very small quantity, in a little cup, and I think we are the only people who do that. Because, for example, you have Starbucks, you have a pint.
Oh, people drink a lot of coffee here.
No, that's not coffee, because in that pint it's the same quantity that we have in our little cup. The
Yeah,
rest is milk, chemical sweeteners,
uh,
water.
like the mix.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's not really coffee. People
No,
call
it
it
is
coffee.
coffee, but you have 5% coffee, 95% milk and chemical sweeteners. And I guess it may be. I'm not bashing Starbucks. They're probably very good, but it's not my kind of coffee. My
Yeah,
kind of coffee is the small, little, bitter one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody enjoys coffee in different ways. Like Uh, Drudy just mentioned Dunkin' Donuts. We have this chain, Dunkin' Donuts. It's very weak coffee. It's and people here, especially in the Northeast where I am, so we're talking New England, a lot of locals, they put a lot of cream in the coffee and a lot of sugar in the coffee. And they'll put also, they like a lot of flavors. They add like hazelnut and French vanilla and pumps of different syrups and stuff. So that's exactly the opposite of what you enjoy. I like,
Margie asked if I know the more if I like the modern form or cabochard. Cabochard, I had the limited edition. I don't have it anymore because my wife took it away. But that was pretty good. I don't know if the current formulation is
so
still good. Do you
what I would
know?
what I would recommend, Alex, is there it was a re-release of Cabochard as an EDP, and it's in sort of an apple-shaped bottle, and it is a very, very well done reformulation or reinventing of it that I have heard from those who are diehard Cabochard fans. It really takes it back to the way Cabochard was a long time ago. Um, Cabochard EDP. So you look out for that, and I think that's really relatively easy to get. I love Cabochard. Actually, Cabochard was the first review that I'd ever posted on Instagram, that EDP version, over 2 years ago. It was like January of 2020. That was the first review that I posted. Like before
I
that,
just
I wasn't even like doing perfume content on my Instagram before that.
I just realized we have missed probably the best of the category.
The,
FAM.
the
We,
best.
we, we haven't talked about FAM, the Rochat.
Rocha Femme is yeah, that's the pinnacle. That's the
Yes,
ultimate.
we missed probably the best of the feminine fragrances, feminine marketed fragrances that are perfectly unisex.
Mm.
And femme is how do you describe femme? A sheep. A sheep. I think that I'm not afraid to say that it is on par, if not superior, to Shipper Palatine.
Ruffle some feathers with that.
And most of all, to fragrances that cost 20 times as much. Roja Diaghilev.
Yeah.
I have a sample of a Roja Diaghilev. Absolutely a fantastic fragrance, but I take from over it anytime.
There's something to be said about that, you know, and you can still get like a vintage Rocha for a fraction of the price of Diaghilev.
Yes, but the modern version, reformulated by Oliver Cresp, by Olivier Cresp, is still good.
It is. It is. I have the newer version as well. I don't see anything wrong with it. I love it. Yeah.
It's not the Rudnitska original, but I think Rudnitska made maybe 10 or 20 fragrances.
Yeah.
All masterpieces. All masterpieces.
Yeah, even Ocean Rain, Mario Valentino, Ocean Rain.
This one, Diorella, from the Rochelle. Eau d'Hermès.
Oh no, Eau d'Hermès is one of my all-time favorites. It's in my top 5 all-time favorites. I'm head over heels for it every time I smell it. I just love it. It's me. It's me all the way. He did have a very small portfolio, but he made a gigantic impression on perfume.
Yes.
Oh
and
God.
There are some older perfumers that very small resume, but really very important. Bernard Chant, I think. All the Aramis line.
That's one of my favorite perfumers, Bernard Chant.
What he did, Cinnabar.
Cinnabar is great. I think that it is. It isn't the. I don't think that Cinnabar is quite the also ran to opium. I think that it's its own entity. Even though I think Estee Lauder was like, let's release our version. Their version has so much character on its own. I think that Bernard Chant did a really good job with it.
He did another one before. After which JHL was modeled. I think.
He worked on so many of those Aramises, and
for Estee Lauder, it was a feminine targeted one.
He did Estee, he did Alliage, he did Azure, he did early on. He did oh God, what's the name of it? Imprévu was one of his first from Coty. Imprévu.
No, it was probably one of the Estee Lauder, not Azuri, but
Aromatics Elixir, which I adore. He did that. So he basically.
I don't remember exactly the name. No, yes, I know Aromatic Elixirs. I don't remember which one, but. Great.
He did. I mean,
perfumer.
He did stuff into the '80s. He did Estee Lauder Beautiful. He did Cabochard. He did.
Oh, Cabochard.
He was a student of Germaine Cellier. Germaine Cellier got him hooked on isobutylquinoline, and it became sort of an ongoing theme with a few of his fragrances. He was a student of Germaine Cellier. He did Halston Classic. He did that as well. And just like Rudnitska, you know, he doesn't have this huge portfolio, like, but what he did was so influential, and he did some of the most. He did a few pillars, and as far as my, you know, in my humble opinion, especially Aromatics Elixir, that would be in like the pantheon of fragrances to me. So. Private label. I didn't actually do private label. I could look that up though. Let me see. Private.
Private label, the Jovoy.
No, this is private. Do you mean? Oh my God, Rudy, do you mean Private Collection? Estee Lauder Private Collection. Here I am, just going along with it. Private Collection was actually Vincent Marcello, and Vincent Marcello not only did Private Collection, but he also did Yatagan. He did Yatagan, and then I think he did Z14. So he did like 3 really, you know, incredible fragrances, and those are the only ones that I mean, he didn't have like a huge portfolio either. So
I have to buy Yatagan.
Love Yatagan. Yatagan's another one of my top 5.
I recently bought Le Troisième Homme, which is great fragrance. But I have Pour un Homme, but I miss Le Troisième Homme. And another one that from Caron, but it's discontinued.
L'Anarchiste.
L'Anarchiste.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I need to search for it.
It's great, and you don't have to get the copper bottle. You don't have to. No,
but the glass bottle is good enough.
Yeah, it's not one of those where you have to get the older bottle. No. Older bottle's pretty cool looking, but I actually preferred to get the newer bottle because it matched the other one. How crazy I am. Like, it matched the other one. I am planning on getting Le Troisième Homme, an older bottle, for comparison reasons. I'm already convinced that I'm not going to feel like, you know, the newer one's inferior. There's just no way. That's the one I fell in love with. The Le Troisième as it's been the past, I don't know, 10 years. So I'll get a bottle from maybe the 90s and see how different it is. I've heard it was a little bit more animalic, apparently. So
yes, maybe, but I don't think it's really that animalic compared to many other fragrances from the period. I think it was much more balanced, refined. It's extremely well balanced because it's not easy to balance a clove note. The clove is particularly strong. It's particularly overwhelming over the rest. Think of Costume National Homme. It's very heavy on clove.
I love clove.
I love it too. I love it too. But if you take Costume National, it almost smells just like clove. While Le Troisième Homme is very balanced. You smell the clove, but you smell also all the other notes. It's like I was speaking a couple of days ago of Diptyque L'Eau de Minté. It's like Diptyque sort of take on Drakkar Noir. Take the lavender out of the game, put mint into. Mint is another very difficult note because it can be overwhelming, or it can come off very like a mouthwash or toothpaste, and that's done very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same level of balancing of well blending the fragrance.
Hmm.
They don't smell alike, of course, because one is mint, one is clove,
Yeah.
but they're well blended, very well balanced.
Yeah. I think that mint can have an incredible effect on a fragrance if the composer of the perfume, the perfumer, doses it in just such a balanced way, so that it doesn't jut out, it doesn't poke out and overpower other things in a fragrance. And when it's done very well, I think mint, it really adds something really great to a fragrance. I'm
Right.
actually another theme week that I'm doing in a few weeks is going to be a mint week sometime in July.
I,
So
I have something. I have a lot. I have Kenzo. A Kenzo with mint is low porom.
mm.
I have Lacoste Booster.
Oh yeah, booster.
Booster that comes off as mouthwash in the beginning.
Mm.
Just the initial blast of mint.
Hmm.
It's really the same blast when you brush your teeth with a minty toothpaste, but
Mm.
then it dries down. The mint stays throughout all the fragrance, but it's just the initial blast that comes out as a mouthwash.
Yeah, yeah.
Part of a mouthwash in a nice way, I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that even when you have like an opening that might be jarring to your nose, it's sometimes worth it after those first few seconds to for what comes just a little bit later. You know what I mean? So scent-siblings.ca. I just got Aqua Colonia lychee and white mint this week. It's neither lychee nor mint, really. It doesn't smell like anything at all. Oh, isn't that disappointing? I'm sorry to hear that. I've experienced that a few times myself. It is especially disappointing when something in the name is not evident in the actual fragrance. I'm looking at you, Lalabo. Uh, so many times I've had a Lalabo, sample Lalabo, and it's not what I'm getting. But I think that's
I
part of it.
I go and take that bottle of Kenzo because I don't remember the name, but I really want to show you because it's really
Yeah.
good.
Oh, please,
Just
please.
a second.
Yes. So we'll be on here for about 10 more minutes to chat a little bit more. Thank you so much for those who joined us a little bit later in the stream. Thank you so much for being here. We've just been doing sort of a free form chat of all different subject matter, all matters of fragrance musing, if you were, if as it were, if you will. Uh, and currently, Alex is fetching something for us to discuss. So, good times. It's about my supper time now. My stomach is starting to rumble. It's almost 9:30 here. I'm eagerly awaiting. Thank you, Lagandam. Thank you very much. Yeah, mint is. I think that mint is an unfairly maligned note in fragrance, and it's surprising where it comes up and where it succeeds. And that week I'll be discussing some of my favorite fragrances that happen to have mint. That would be really fun. I'm liking that pillow that Alex has. That's kind of cool. I'm trying to make out if it's a cityscape or some sort of psychedelic pattern. I'm liking it though. I like the green wall too, or if that's a green carpet kind of thing. Getting a little nosy there. If only I could turn over there and see what's over there and what's over there in this place. So what are people wearing this evening? What are you wearing? If you're wearing anything at all, do you have an SOTE? Do you have a scent of the evening? Let us know in the comments. We'd like to hear. And here we have Alex.
I'm back. Oh.
Ooh. I like that it's off center. I like how the atomizer's off center. Lo Kenzo.
Low Kenzo. Low Kenzo Purom. And this is the woody aquatic, aromatic, and it has incredibly creative notes. It has lotus. I never smelled a lotus, so I won't identify it into the blend, but green pepper. Yeah, I smell quite a few green peppers. So mint, aquatic notes. It's great. It's light. It's minty. It's fresh, very fresh, extremely refreshing. This is something you can wear in scorching heat. And citrus opening, a great citrus opening. And this is really, really good.
Kenzo surprises me with a number of their fragrances. I think Kenzo has released some pretty impressive scents. As a designer, you know how some folks are, design our fragrances. And it all started with, design.
I like Kenzo because it's creative. It does aquatic. He did 2 aquatic fragrances, Kenzo Purom, the classic blue, and this one, and they're very different from your usual aquatic fragrances, like can be Cool Water or Acqua di Gio. They're for example, Kenzo, the original Purom, is, yes, an aquatic, but it's not the sunny beach aquatic. It's the stormy sea.
Right. It's not like a lounging on the beach kind of aquatic.
No, it's the stormy sea with the billows.
Yeah.
Going on the rocks, the seaweed drying on the beach, on the rocky beach. That's different, a different take on a marine aquatic scent, and this is different too. This is another great creative fragrance by Kenzo. Also L'Homme Boisé. It's very,
Boisé, yeah.
It's very, very good. And well, Kenzo Jungle is incredible.
Yeah, I love
Jungle is Olivier Cresp, and it's fantastic. Since I am the one for the weirdest comparisons, I find similarities between Kenzo Jungle and Dior Higher Energy.
Interesting. I wasn't aware that the two were similar to each other.
No, it's probably I'm the only one who can find similarities in them.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenzo is the Higher Energy is summer, easy to wear fragrances. Was Dior first try to do a mass appealing fragrance. It's fresh, it's uplifting. Hi Joe, and it's very, very generic. Jungle is not so generic, but they have something in common. One is lighter and fresher, while Jungle is denser, heavier. Yes, but I'm I'm crazy about this comparing. For example, if you ask me what's the best alternative to the vintage Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme, normal people would say Dolce & Gabbana Intenso,
Uh-huh.
which is actually the most similar in scent profile. But I think it misses the vibe. Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme had a great 90s vibe. So I will go with something from the 90s, which has the same great vibe, which is a fougère done in the Italian way, like Dolce & Gabbana, and has a tobacco note, like Dolce & Gabbana. And we say Versace the Dreamer, which smell nothing like Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme, but I think it's the only true alternative.
Right. Right. That's good. Some good observations all around. You definitely know your onions, as they say, when it comes to fragrance. That's become very apparent during our discussion. And I want to thank you for allowing me to join you to do this. It's really cool. We should do this.
Thank you for honoring me with your presence on my channel, on my page.
Yeah. Of course. Let's do this again sometime this summer. And of course, we'll
Why not?
often anyhow. It's not like we're not chatting every other day anyhow, but this is different. It's good to be able to communicate like this and share this with everyone else, all of our friends and fellow fragrance enthusiasts. So that's been wonderful. And I by Brian, I just want to give you a shout out for wearing Eau de Campagna. Wonderful choice. But yeah, I'm going to have some supper, Alex. Let's chat more soon. And thank you so much for inviting me to do this.
I will upload this video also to my YouTube channel. And if you want, feel free to upload it to yours too, if you want to.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm able to do that on my end, but make sure that it's on
Well,
your...
I will send you the file if you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you can do that.
I can send you the file, you can upload it. Or I don't know if I can share from YouTube, from my YouTube channel to yours. I don't know. We will see.
Yeah, at minimum, you'll at least be able to, right after we close things here, you'll have it right on your Instagram, so...
Yes, but I have a software that encodes the file from Instagram to make it uploadable to YouTube. So I have a copy of everything stored. I can send you an email with the file attached, and that's it. So thank you for being here. It's been a really nice and interesting conversation as always.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Hope to get back soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.